So with that in mind, what I want to start with today is that faith is a process of remembering who we truly are, or at least it's kind of an outcome, if you will, of moving through faith and spiritually growing. And what do I mean when I say remembering who you truly are? Because that might sound kind of strange, right? And I remember, like, every time I've heard that over the years, it's kind of like, like, what exactly does that mean? So I'm referring to the fact that you are not your body, you're not your name, you're not your mind. Yet this is what most of us think that we are. It's the things that come to mind when we think of who we are. And as a person, and what we maybe what comes to mind for us as our identity, if we are asked about it. But it isn't who you really are. You are a fractal of the Most High. You are a fractal of God, source, whatever label you want to insert there. We are all fractals of this one source, the creator of everything. And because you are a part of God, you are also God. You are a unique expression of God. You are also like this unique individual expression of God having an experience in the world. And you are also everyone else. And we're all one because we are all fractals of God, like I said. So the notion that we're all separate and less than God and not from God, or less than, is actually not from God. It's a concept that we get from the world. It's something that the world teaches us, something largely that comes from religion. So the world has given us this false perception of separateness from God. Religion has a lot to do with this, as I said a second ago. And I'm not here to attack anyone's religion. I've identified with several different religions over the course of my life. I was raised Catholic. I spent a good chunk of my life as a Wiccan. And in later years, I was called back into Christianity. And I would say at this point in my life, I don't really subscribe to any particular religion, because, like I said, I've come to kind of see that it's not, religion is kind of what has created this perception of separateness for most of us, a concept that we are separate from God, when that is not the case. You're not separate from God. You aren't separate from the person next to you, and you aren't separate even from your own spirit. Yet I think most of us, whether we're conscious of it or not, operate as if we are, and believe that we are. I know I believed that for a long time. And I believe this is part of why we are all here, is to remember this, and that life is a process of shedding all of these layers of conditioning that we sort of amass around ourselves from the time that we enter this world. So if you have started this process, this is going to speak to you. Your spirit is going to be responding to this. You may even feel this in your body as you listen to the series, and this episode. And if not, it may sound really far out there. It may be like, what the heck is this lady talking about? Or it might go over your head completely and may not land at all. And all of that's okay. And I get it, because there was a time that a lot of what I'm going to be talking about did not truly land for me. And there was a time where a lot of this would have gone over my head as well. But I can say that I've always had this desire for truth. I remember a moment years ago. I can't pinpoint exactly like what point in time it was years ago. It was before I was divorced, so it was probably greater than 10 years ago. But I remember this moment where I was sort of like between religions, and I asked God, please show me what's true. I want to know you, God. I want to know what's right. I want to know, what's true. And this part of this, like, I was coming from this place of, like I said, I was raised Catholic, so there was like this, heavy, like, fear of hell and sin and like what happens after we die kind of a thing that I got from that, and even from Christianity. But then over the years, I studied different religions, and I was practicing different religions at different points in time, again, because I was always kind of searching for truth. And I really, what I realize now, I was seeking God. But you don't really get that from a religion, not truly, because if you're honed in and hyper focused on the religion, there's always a doctrine and rules, and this is how you're supposed to do it, and this is the ultimate truth. Like, they all present themselves as like the truth or the way or whatever, right? And I get, there's, that's kind of the nature of it, but you're focusing in on this so much that you're not necessarily developing a relationship with God. It's not to say that if you're in a religion you can't, but at least for me, like, especially when I think back on when I was, being raised Catholic, like, I just remember it was like you go to church and you go through these motions. If you're familiar with Catholic Mass, it's a process. It's like you come in and there's like kind of the greeting and the opening prayer, and then you're kneeling down and doing another prayer, and then you're standing up for another prayer, and then there's like a focused excerpt of the Bible of the day that the priest is focusing in on, and you kind of going through all these things. But I was seeking more of this feeling. I wanted to experience God. I wanted, it was just, it's one thing to do all of these things and go through these processes and motions in a church and a service, but it's another thing to awaken your spirit and to truly feel connected to God in that way. And that was something that would not come from me until much later. And that's what this prayer that I'm sharing that I had made years ago, where it was really coming from and where I was really going with it. And I was asking him, for this truth, like, lead me to the truth. I want to know what it is. And I said, I can't find my way in the noise of all these different religions, all of these religions and I don't know, practices, whatever you want to call it, that claim to be right, that claim to be the thing. Um, and that was kind of the gist of it, right? And then I sort of forgot about it. I just like went on with my life and day-to-day stuff, whatever, and I kind of forgot about it, but God didn't. And I didn't really know that at the time, of course, right? But God started me down the path to truth from that moment forward. And I can see that clearly now. But of course, again, at the time that that I wasn't conscious of it. But looking back, I can remember it started with like this random urge to start reading the Bible and understanding the Bible for myself. Now that's on, today is not really about going into the Bible or a specific religion, as I mentioned. I'm just sharing that's kind of like where he took me next in answering this prayer of, show me the truth, God. I want to understand you. I want to know you, and I just want to know the truth.